Good afternoon and welcome to everyone joining us for today's webinar. Well, you'll have a chance to get to learn more about the benefits of Juris Suite Collections. Featuring our guest speaker, Kendra Gebhardt, Juris Business Development Manager. My name is Chantel. I am the Assistant Marketing Manager for Juris and I will be your host for today's session. These webinars are complimentary to our Juris customers and have been designed to help you get the most from your Juris software by providing you with time-saving tips and best practices for using Juris. The format for today's webinar is the presentation provided by Kendra, followed by a question and answer period. All our attendees will be in listen-only mode for the duration of our presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them via the questions pane located on your webinar control panel. During the last 5 minutes of the webinar, Kendra will answer your questions. Please note that we are recording today's event and all attendees will receive an email within 1 week with a link to the recording and any slides that Kendra may use. Also, there is a brief survey at the end of our webinar today that we ask you to please take a moment to complete. Your feedback will help us in planning our future events. Kendra, at this time, I will turn the webinar over to you.
Thank you, Chantal. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be able to speak with you today and hopefully give you some knowledge about the Juris Suite Collections module that may assist you in this difficult year. Collections is one of those things that for some of us, we haven't had to really think about much in the past, but with the events of 2020 and people working from home and losing their jobs and everything, I think we're all kind of in the same boat with having to work with data from a report that may not be real time, not having all the information that we may need to make collection calls or send emails because we're not in the office or may not have access to all of the pieces of information that we need, which results in us keeping notes about collection activities on our tablets or emails or any place else. If any of you can relate, years ago, it was sticky notes around the computer screen to be able to remind us to check to see if a payment was received or if things came in. And so following up on those details and dates has always been, to some degree, handled by many people that don't necessarily always share that information with everyone else that might need to have it in the firm. So, those copies of emails or letters that are sent trying to collect things are always in various places. Years ago, we kept them in, file cabinets. Most of us now have gotten rid of those kinds of file cabinets and we keep them in document management systems that are available through the computer. But making and keeping a chronological order of the activities that are required, take up time that many of us, and I'm sure you're the same, don't have to be able to continually track those things down. And that's what brings us to, Juris Suite Collections. When we created the collections module, some of those things became evident that, first of all, we needed to be able to have letter templates for collection letters that we could either send to the client by mail or we could send to the client by email, or we could provide to our timekeepers for them to decide whether or not, if they were the ones who are collecting from our clients, that they could decide whether or not we were allowed or authorized to go ahead and send it to the client. Many of us have clients and matters, specific timekeepers don't want us to take collection action on simply because they are protecting that relationship, or it may be a client who refers a lot of other new business to us. So we don't want to put ourselves in a position of defending the fact that someone in our office requested, payment on a bill. So those are the things that kind of keep us from just collecting from everybody the same way all the time. So we've got differences based on the timekeepers and the clients that they represent. With Juris, the collections module gives you real-time information. So we're not waiting to print an aged AR report at a specific time. It lets us see on a daily basis, whenever we go into collections and select that information, it lets us see what's happened. If a cash receipt has been, put in, then we see that cash receipt, that overdue AR falls off the collection information. But it also gives us access to the client information without having to jump back and forth. We don't have to go into client matter inquiry, for example. If I've got a client in the collections module that I'm looking at their overdue invoices, I can double click on that client and it's going to open a screen that gives me that information, right there. So all the information that I record for an activity or a contact date where I've tried to collect an invoice can be entered in the collection module under the activities and just put it in there that I had a phone call, or I got an email from the client, or sent an email to the client, or if the check came in, I can mark it as such. If I've been promised a check, I can put in a reminder so that it will automatically give me from the software a reminder that says, hey, you wanted to check to see if this payment came in. So I don't have to have those sticky notes all over my computer screen anymore, because I'm going to get notified by the software that I wanted to check on that. I wanted to follow up on that. You also can identify who in the firm has the authority to see information in the collections module, and that way maybe you can delegate those clients and matters to specific folks to follow up on, so that it's not all the responsibility of just one person, provided you have multiple folks in the firm who can assist you. And then there's also those collection activity reports for the information that you're entering into the collections module. You can run a report on it. You can have a chronological history of the attempts that were made to try and collect that information. I know in many different parts of the country there are different requirements by the local ABA organizations that tell you what you are allowed and what you are not allowed, or even sometimes even the verbiage that is appropriate on a collection letter or collection emails that you may be required to fulfill before you can take any further action. None of us want to have to take further action on collecting an invoice. There's just no two ways about it. That's not what we want to have to do. So those things become easier with the Juris Suite Collections module. We're going to take just a brief look at some of these snapshots of the collections, just to give you an idea of what you're able to do with the collections module. This one simply shows, that I've selected to see the overdue invoices by matter. It gives me, the client name, the client code, matter name, all of that information, what the AR balances are, and how far overdue they are. And I selected these by matter, so that when looking at this, I can see exactly, who owes what and how much. But if I want to go deeper, I can look at the individual, client information, just like I said, with the ledger history or the collection history, being able to click on those tabs directly from the collections module without having to jump back to the client matter inquiry, I can get it right here. And if I need to print, bring up an archived invoice to be able to send to the client, I can do that. It's not going to be automatic. It doesn't automatically attach those invoices to a collection email or collection letter, but I can certainly bring them up and attach them should I need to do so. But that's going to be, that's going to be a more manual process to be able to do that. But on the ledger history, I can see all of the ledger history. I can see all of the entries that were made as far as the collection history, all of the attempts and all of the transactions that I've entered. I call them transactions, but they're not, they're activities. So I can select to add a new activity up here. You just add a new one. It's going to open the form for you to put in what you did, what kind of entry it was. Was it a call to the client? Was it a payment process? Was a call from the client? And what those follow-up dates were that would give you the notification that you wanted to follow up on it, so that you can see, in one place, all the things that have been done to try and collect the information for this client. And then you have the ability to communicate with the client. You can email to the timekeeper, so you can send a timekeeper. It says, hey, your client has these 3 invoices that are outstanding, or 10, or whatever they are. You can email that information to the client. Because you can assign a collection letter template to each type of client that you want to be able to use. Your collection letter is in Juris Suite reporting as a template for you to be able to add your firm letterhead to it, or change the verbiage. But a collection letter in Juris Suite Collections provides you with a listing of all of the outstanding invoices and the balance on those invoices. So whether you provide that to the timekeeper, or email it to the client, or print the letter and post it, or select to print all of them that you've selected for communication, is really depends on your individual firm and what you want to be able to do. But it does keep that historical record then of the communication as well, whether it was printed and sent, whether it was emailed and sent, what the date of that was, so that you have a listing of all of the transactions that have taken place from the collections module trying to collect this client. So as far as slides go, that's the end of those slides. But I do want to just jump over here and see if I can't bring the software, the actual software, to show you as well. So this is the collections module. We're actually in my demo version of Juris. I pulled up an analyze by matter, but if I do, for example, analyze by client, when you first come in here, it says, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to check for a single client? Do you want to check for a particular billing timekeeper? Do you want to show everything and include those clients that maybe your timekeepers or your partners have asked not to collect on, but you want to still see the outstanding AR anyway? So you can simply say search that. And it's going to search it, and it's going to come in here, and it's going to say, oh, these are all the clients that have outstanding balances. And so just like I indicated in the presentation, if I want to see all that is out here, I'm going to say, okay, show me this information. And it's going to retrieve that data. Hold up on my other screen. And it's going to retrieve that data for that client, and it's going to give me all of those details. I didn't have to go to client matter inquiry. I simply did it here. I can get the ledger history. I can get the collection history. I can add a new activity. Sorry, folks, it's pulling it up on the other screen. I don't know why. But I can add a new activity. So if I want to put a follow-up date on this, I can. If I want to put, select and have many different entry types I can. I can set up as many different entry types as I need or as I want for my firm. The ones that are set up in this demo database are just these few: call from client, call to client, email from client, payment promise. So I can select payment promise, and I can select, I want to know whether or not the payment came in next week. And I can key in the details. That they promised a payment, and say, okay, and now I've got that history record, and it shows it right here. So I'm not losing anything that has transpired. So and as I go through this and I select any of these for communication, I can come over here to the communication tab, and I can say, oh, I've already selected a couple of these. Let me take a look at this. So now I want to take a look at what this, I want to preview this letter. So I want to know what this letter might look like to the client. So this is a template out of Juris Suite Reporting. Doesn't have a letterhead on it or anything, but it gives, it gives a date. Again, I'm in a demo database and someone's changed the date here. But it gives me the matter that I'm dealing with. It gives me, the invoice number, and it gives me the balance due, and I can address this verbiage and make it what I need it to be. The thing I don't want to change is I don't want to change the total. So I don't, I can address the dates and that kind of thing, but I don't want to change the total, because if there were more than one invoice, it would total them all up there for me and allow me to present all of them to the client at once. In this instance, there's only that one invoice on that matter. However, I can look at some that have more than one matter in here. It just depends on how I pulled them over. For example, this one has 3 matters. So this letter. So wrong thing. Preview the letter. So in this instance, it gives me the entire list of all of the outstanding invoices for each of those matters, and how many days overdue they are, and everything like that. So it gives me the opportunity that it's pulling this information directly from the database. It's not information that I have to retype. If something was paid, then it's, then the balance on those invoices are going to be reduced. It's not something I have to go and double check, because if a payment has been received and posted, it's automatically, those balances are going to be addressed before this letter was pulled up, because this is real time. So it gives us a lot of flexibility when we're doing that. We're not working off an aged AR report that we're making notes on. We're not trying to pass emails back and forth when we might have missed that a payment came in today, those kinds of things. So it gives us a lot of opportunity to be able to address those collections. Chantel, I think we want to open, I know we've got about 10 minutes left, but I want to open the microphone so that everybody can ask questions if they want to. I know that I've just tossed a lot of information out here. So I want to be able to answer any questions they may have. I'll also say that if anybody wants a firm-specific demo of Juris Suite Collections, I'm more than happy to schedule that with you as well, and talk through it with you and give you a more in-depth look at Juris Suite Collections.
Thank you, Kendra, for that great and informative session. This concludes the presentation portion of our webinar. Kendra, if you want, I can open it's 16 people on the call, so I'll just open the mic if anybody would like. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'll just go ahead and open up. Okay. So if anybody has any questions, they should be able to unmute themselves at this point.
Hi, good afternoon, Kendra and Chantel. How are you? This is Susan Ritchie.
Hi, Susan.
I do have just two quick questions. This is kind of a refresh for me because I did have an overview of this about, I would say, about 8 months ago. So after COVID hit, so I needed to refresh. But there were two things that I kind of remember. One was that once you put something into the report, it can't be like revised or deleted. Is that true?
When you put it into the activity,
Yes. Because what I do now is I have an external report. So they were thinking that I could make a report via the Juris Suite. It would, print its own report out with all of the communication history.
okay.
Is that true? Because that was my understanding.
Um, yeah, it won't allow you to change the actual entry.
Okay.
So well, let me make sure that I'm in the right place here. Yeah, because it's not going to let me open an entry that I've put in.
Okay.
Me add a new one to
Yep.
to address any changes, but it's not going to let me edit what I've entered previously.
Okay. And is there a character, um, uh, you know, cut off, a character limit for the entries?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. And then can I print like a whole report? Because it looks like there is a print button there.
Yes.
There's a report button. Okay. That was it.
You can print a report of the collection history. I mean, when I pull up this report, it's going to ask me, what things do I want, just like I would in Juris Suite reporting. It's going to ask me, the parameters that I want to select, what date range I want, or if I want it all, or that kind of thing.
Right.
So you can print that report right from there.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you so much. I'm gonna log off because I have another meeting I have to get to, but thank you very much.
You're welcome, Susan.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Kendra, it's Marla McCulley. What is the cost of adding this module?
The cost is going to depend on the license size your firm currently has, Marla. But if you would like, I will certainly look it up and I can send that to you.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Okay, I will look it up for you. And I will send you an email with that cost for your firm.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Would
Anybody
anybody like to ask an additional question?
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm Stacy Kutzitz from Kino Cozy, and I have a couple questions. I would also like to know what the cost is. And when you were saying about sending it to clients, so when you sent the letter to a client, were you able to put the account manager, billing timekeeper, or whatever you guys call it?
Yeah.
So in the email, I can email it to a client and then email it to the account manager as like a CC.
Yes, absolutely.
And then would I be able to pull in all the invoices from like the ledger history, I'm assuming?
It won't automatically pull them, but if you were to, because keep in mind that as it is currently in Juris, those invoices are recreated when you select to view the archived images.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to create those invoices first so that you could attach them to that email before you send it.
Oh, so let me ask you this. Can I do like an AR statement through the collections module? So let's say
No.
like after 30 days, I want to send a mass email to all my clients after 30 days saying, hey, just want to let you know we haven't received a payment after 31 days. These are the invoices that are outstanding. This is how much you owe, basically.
Yeah, it's not going to do all of them. That's what your AR statement will do out of client accounting, but that's not what the collections module does at this point. It doesn't reproduce the functionality of the billing area of client accounting.
So in the regular Juris, do I still have to have note cards in regular Juris, or I would just put everything in the collection module?
What do you put on your note cards in Juris now?
So whenever I reach out to a client in note cards, I write today's date, email the client, client promises to pay in 10 days or whatever.
Yeah, no, I would, if I were using the collections module, I wouldn't be using note cards for that any longer.
Okay, so you would just use the cut. I'm just trying to figure out how this would benefit us, and I want to know like the cost and if it would be a good fit for us, because we have something that we're kind of like doing it a little bit, but this
Yeah.
might be a better fit. So if I send out, so can I send out several? The only problem I have is I don't consolidate any of my invoices. My invoices are not consolidated.
They don't need to be. Even
No.
though you have, for example, you've got a client that has, 3 matters.
Okay.
There's 4 or 5 open invoices on each of those matters. That's kind of what I showed here when it's got this client, this client has 3 matters. And when I look at the preview of what it is I'm going to send this client, it's got all of the invoices for all of those matters, even though these aren't consolidated.
Okay.
In any way, shape, but it's giving me all of the invoices for those matters based on invoice date, order, what's outstanding.
Okay. So let's say I have multiple email addresses. So it would pull the multiple email addresses to like send this letter that you're showing me right here.
Right, so your multiple email addresses are on the different billing addresses for those matters?
Yes, but I have like a semicolon. Okay, so I have a semicolon when I'm doing the actual billing, but then we created a separate AR contact for each billing email address. Because some of our clients, it's going to accounts payable and maybe the CFO.
It would, the answer to the question is I don't know. Because
Okay.
I'd have to look at it in the data and how the collection module is pulling it from where now.
Okay.
So it's going to depend on where you have that entered as to where it would be currently pulling it from, and whether or not that could be modified in the template for the email.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Anybody else have any questions?
Okay. Well, that concludes today's webinar, and I would like to thank Kendra once again for her excellent presentation, and to all of our attendees for taking time out of your busy days to join us. All attendees will receive an email within 1 week with a link to a recording of today's webinar, as well as any slides used for Kendra's presentation. In closing, there is a brief survey at the end of our webinar today that we ask you to please take a moment to complete. Your feedback will help us in planning our future webinars. Thank you all for your time today. I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.